And she said to me, "Girl, what you's talking about? I ain't never said nothing like that before."
Leshawna's in the house.
I've never seen a girl like you in real life before.
Excuse me?
You're real big and loud.
You're 10 years old and you turn on Nickelodeon or Disney Channel. There's a black character in one of your favorite shows. They're the loud one or the angry one. Sometimes the sidekick who exists to hype up the white main character. The one who never gets the love interest. The one who gets written out between seasons without a goodbye. You didn't have the vocabulary for it at 10, but something in you registered it. Because you saw it again, and again, and again. Disney Channel and Nickelodeon built their golden eras, the late 90s through the 2010s, on a formula. That formula had a slot for black characters. Usually just one slot. And that slot came pre-filled with a job description. Be sassy, be angry, be the best friend, be comic relief, or be the villain. It was beamed into the brains of millions of children at their most impressionable. We need to talk about it. Before we get into specifics, let's name what we're dealing with. The sassy black girl or angry black woman. This one has a whole academic history. Scholars call it the sapphire stereotype, the idea that black women are, by nature, aggressive, loud, sharp-tongued, and irrational.
This picture says it all. Oh no, she didn't. Stop playing.
It started in minstrel shows and films of the early 1900s and has never really gone away. The angry black woman stereotype portrays African-American women as sassy, ill-mannered, and ill-tempered by nature, with roots in slavery. Scholars have noted that it has been used to silence and shame black women who dare to challenge social inequalities or demand fair treatment. What's sinister about transplanting this into children's TV is the age of the audience. Children internalize stereotypes featured in programming they consume, influencing the way they judge and interact with others. A 7-year-old watching a black girl character snap her fingers and roll her eyes isn't going to sit down and deconstruct the sapphire trope. She just absorbs it as normal. The token black friend. The token black friend is a trope where a character is included primarily to give the white protagonist credibility as diverse and inclusive, not to tell their own story. They exist in service of the lead. They cheer, they hype, they give advice. They don't have their own dreams, their own arcs, their own love stories that the show actually invests in. They're furniture with a personality. The magical Negro or comic relief. A variation on the token friend. The black character whose purpose is either to make everyone laugh or to solve a problem for the white protagonist, and then recede. Their moments of depth exist only to serve someone else's journey. The absent or pathologized family. A quieter one, but worth naming. Black characters in these shows frequently don't have intact families shown on screen. They have absent fathers or chaotic households and wild grandmothers used as punchlines. The nuclear family, which is seen as stable, present, and loving, was a privilege that almost exclusively belonged to the white characters. These aren't 4 separate problems. They're variations on the same one. Black characters designed to fit around white characters, never to stand on their own.
Girl, I'm sorry to hear about your chemistry test and all, but is you gonna eat that?
Dan Schneider's Nickelodeon universe. Nickelodeon, specifically the Dan Schneider era, is the most concentrated example of this problem in kids' TV history. Schneider created or produced All That, Kenan and Kel, The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, Zoey 101, iCarly, Victorious, Sam and Cat, Henry Danger. These shows dominated Nickelodeon from the late 90s to the mid-2010s. And across all of them, a pattern held. Zoey 101, Michael Barrett. Zoey 101 ran from 2005 to 2008 at the Pacific Coast Academy boarding school. The main cast had one black character, Michael Barrett, played by Christopher Massey. Michael is listed explicitly as the token black friend in the show's own character documentation, the only black person in the main cast. He's lovable. He's funny. He's a loyal friend. And he has essentially no storyline of his own that the show actually commits to. What Michael does have is a function. He supports Chase's love for Zoey. He supports Logan's schemes. He reacts to other people's drama. Season after season. The show gives Chase a 3-year will they won't they arc with Zoey that defines the entire series. Logan gets a whole redemption arc and a meaningful relationship with Quinn. Michael gets a potato chip addiction. A love interest named Lisa who barely registers on screen. Nickelodeon's own character database refers to him as the token black friend like it's a neutral descriptor. That's the tell. They knew. They just didn't think it was a problem. Victorious, André Harris, and the crazy grandma. This one is personal for a lot of people who grew up with Victorious. André Harris, played by Leon Thomas III, is genuinely one of the most talented people in Hollywood arts. He plays multiple instruments, writes songs, sings, and is emotionally available and kind. The argument has been made clearly and repeatedly. André Harris should have been the heartthrob of Victorious. He has everything. And yet he ends up on the margins, the only African-American main character in the show, while Beck, a character with no discernible personality beyond looking good, gets all the romantic energy. But that's not even the worst part. André's primary comedic function in the show is his grandmother, a black woman who is written as frightened by everything, umbrellas, rabbits, breakfast foods, and who reacts to her fears by going completely unhinged. She destroys his electronics. She sucker punches his laptop. She is played entirely for laughs. Critics have pointed out that the crazy grandma framing is not an isolated character quirk. It's part of a broader pattern in the show of placing black women in roles defined by irrationality and aggression, including André's cousin Kendra, who was brought in specifically to publicly humiliate someone on Tori's behalf and was written as a stereotypical angry black woman. What does it say that the only substantive black woman in Andre's life is defined by fear and violence? That's the show's answer to the question of what black womanhood looks like. And millions of kids watched it. Also, André is the only male main character in Victorious who never kissed any of the girls in the main cast. Not once. Think about that for a second. In 4 seasons, every other male character, Beck, Robbie, even Robbie's puppet Rex, gets romantic moments. The one black man is almost entirely written out of the romantic universe of the show. The one brief romantic episode that he had featured a biracial girl who is comically clingy and always on him, which presents yet another harmful stereotype. The Jezebel, originating from the transatlantic slave trade that falsely characterizes black women as innately promiscuous, seductive, and sexually insatiable. It was historically used to dehumanize black women.
I'm gonna show you what kissing is all about. He's just playing. He knows he likes me.
Disney Channel, the sassy best friend era. Disney had its own version of this problem, slightly different in flavor, but equally consistent. Good Luck Charlie Ivy. Good Luck Charlie gave us Teddy Duncan's best friend Ivy, played by Raven Goodwin. Ivy is Teddy's ride or die from the very first episode. She's also a textbook sassy black best friend. Research on Ivy's character has pointed out that her boldness and overconfidence are consistently positioned in contrast to Teddy's softer, more desirable traits, and that when the two of them handle situations differently, Ivy's approach is always the blunter, more aggressive one. In a babysitting episode, Teddy tries to gently settle down a group of kids. When that fails, Ivy comes in with a raised voice and threats. Ivy's role is to do the things Teddy can't or won't, in a way the show frames as unrefined. And there's a detail in the show's character write-ups that's very revealing. Ivy is noted as book dumb. She waited until her sophomore year to get her highest grade ever, AB. Teddy, meanwhile, is responsible, academically engaged, and presented as the moral center of the show. The black best friend is explicitly written as less educated and less refined than the white main character. This is exactly the danger of misplaced diversity. Black children watching see someone who looks like them represented in a subservient role, defined primarily by how they benefit the white protagonist. The personality Ivy has isn't really hers. It's a function. And the show never gives her anything beyond it. Jessie is another one of Disney's most egregious examples. The show follows a nanny for a wealthy Manhattan family with 4 adopted children from different backgrounds. The framing is clearly meant to read as diversity forward. It is the opposite. Zuri was adopted from Uganda. She was raised in an Upper East Side penthouse. She had never lived in an urban environment. The show wrote her as having a major attitude problem. This is the most damning part. Not just the stereotypes, but the fact that she exhibited urban black stereotypes despite having no connection to urban black life. She lived in a penthouse and was born in Uganda. The implication is that these characteristics came from her genetics, from the color of her skin, not from her environment or experiences. Reviewers have noted that Zuri started out compassionate and sweet in early episodes, then became progressively more stereotypical over time, sassy, spoiled, always getting her way through stubbornness, as if the writers defaulted to the trope once the novelty of the character wore off. A common-sense media study from 2017 found that characters of color in shows most watched by children ages 2 to 13 are more likely to be depicted as violent than white characters. Jessie is a textbook example of what those numbers look like in practice. The Proud Family, Dijonay Jones. Now this one is complicated, and I have to be honest about the complication. The Proud Family was a groundbreaking show. A black-led Disney Channel cartoon with a black family at the center, a black lead going through the experiences of girlhood. That matters. But even in a black-led show, the tropes crept in. Dijonay Jones, Penny's best friend, was written as the loud, aggressive, sassy counterpart to Penny's more measured protagonist. Analysis of the show has connected Dijonay directly to colorist patterns in media, where darker-skinned black characters are given more obnoxiously loud characterizations while lighter-skinned characters receive more positive traits. Penny is positioned as well-rounded and aspirational. Dijonay is her comic foil. Even the character's name reads as a critique. Dijonay looks like the scriptwriters were mocking names associated with black women from lower-income backgrounds. She and her 9 siblings were all named after condiments and spices. Her father is never seen. Her mother is coded as irresponsible for having so many children. These are choices. In a show that had the chance to get it right, that was actively trying to center black life, the writers still reached for the lazy characterization when it came to the best friend. That tells you something about how deep this goes. Let's go faster through some of the other examples, because the list is genuinely long. In one episode of Hannah Montana, Oliver attends one of Miley's celebrity tennis matches, and a black woman with locks sits in front of him. The entire scene treats her hair as a joke, too big, blocking his view. Oliver then proceeds to touch her hair without her consent and gets his hand stuck in it. This aired on a children's network, and it taught kids 2 things simultaneously. Black hair is abnormal enough to be a punchline, and touching a black person's hair without permission is funny rather than a violation. This is the kind of small moment that compounds across years of watching. Total Drama Island, Leshawna. Total Drama Island is a Canadian animated show that aired on Cartoon Network and became a staple of kids' TV in the late 2000s. Leshawna is one of its most iconic characters. Leshawna is frequently categorized as the angry black woman trope, a fiery temper, not afraid to speak her mind, willing to get physical when provoked. Defenders of the character point out that her anger is often justified and that she also has genuine loyalty and warmth. But the framing matters. Her emotional range gets coded as aggression, while similar traits in white characters get coded as strength or passion. The show has her consistently read as the loud one, the physically intimidating one. Her depth is real, but it's constantly operating in a frame the writers built around the stereotype. iCarly, the near total absence. iCarly ran for 6 seasons and almost 100 episodes. It has virtually no black characters of any significance whatsoever. The show is set in Seattle, a real city with a real black community, and managed to construct an entire world where black people essentially don't exist. The absence is itself a statement. When black characters do appear in single episodes of these Schneider shows, they're almost always a bully, a one-episode love interest who disappears, or comic relief. Why this matters, and who it hurts. There are 2 groups of children watching these shows, and the harm lands differently on each of them. For black children, tokenism is especially harmful to children of color, causing identity confusion and poor self-esteem. When a black child sees that the only person who looks like them on their favorite show is always the sidekick or the one who doesn't get the love story, or the one defined by anger or loudness, they don't just notice it abstractly. They absorb it as information about themselves and about what they're worth. The scholar Erica Gerald Mason described her own experience of the sassy black friend trope. Growing up, she felt pressure to be the sassy, happy friend, even when she was sad or anxious, because that was the role the media had assigned to people who looked like her. The performance became a survival strategy. That's what happens when stereotypes get normalized in childhood content. For non-black children, when children in predominantly white areas see this kind of media and harmful stereotypes, they begin to learn and believe all people of that race act like that because they are not exposed to people who don't look like them. The kid who has no black classmates, no black family friends, no black neighbors, their entire understanding of black people is being built from Zuri's attitude and André's crazy grandma and Leshawna's temper and Ivy's sass. That's not a minor thing. That's foundational. Children who grow up with those schemas carry them into adulthood. Children should not easily be able to identify the good guys and bad guys based on racial cues alone. A character's cultural background does not determine their morality. But that's precisely what these shows teach, that blackness comes packaged with a certain personality type, a certain role, a certain amount of space in the story. There's also something worth saying about the shows that got it right or closer to right to show that this isn't inevitable. That's so Raven gave Disney Channel its first black lead who wasn't a best friend. Raven wasn't the sassy sidekick. She was the main character, with an inner life and emotional stakes and storylines that belonged to her. The show even addressed racism directly in a season 3 episode where a store manager refused to hire Raven because of her race. That's what courage in children's media looks like. I also think Charlotte in Henry Danger was a good example of positive black representation in kids' shows. She didn't fall into the common stereotype discussed in this video, so it was refreshing to have a character like her on screen. These counterexamples prove that writers and executives can do better. Some of them just choose not to. What we should demand. 1. Black characters need their own storylines. Not storylines that serve the main, white, character. Their own. André deserved a love story that the show actually invested in. Michael deserved a rivalry, a dream, a real reason to exist beyond supporting Chase. Ivy deserved storylines where Teddy was supporting her for once. 2. The sassy trait needs to stop being the personality. A comedy is not the problem. The problem emerges when humor becomes the only dimension a black character is allowed to have. You can write a funny black character. You can write a blunt black character. But the moment that's all they are, you've reduced a person to function. 3. Black family structures shouldn't be defaulted to pathology. The absent father, the chaotic household, the loud grandmother, these aren't automatically stereotypes. They can be real. But when they show up as the only representation of black family life in show after show, they stop being characterization and start being a statement about what black families are. For writers' rooms need to look different. This one goes behind the camera. The argument has been made clearly in the industry that as you have more diverse creatives, there tends to be more openness to showing who they really are. The clumsy handling of diversity in older kids' programming was, in part, a reflection of who was in the room making decisions. If no one in the room has lived experience as a black person, the black character on screen will be an approximation at best and a caricature at worst. These are shows I watched. Maybe shows you watch too. And I'm not asking you to stop loving them. Nostalgia is complicated, and that's okay. But we have to be honest about what these shows taught us. What they taught black children about their worth. What they taught non-black children about black people. Because the kids who grew up on this stuff are adults now. We're in writers' rooms, in casting offices, in executive suites. We're making the next generation of kids' content. And if we don't name what was wrong, we'll just keep repeating it. New characters. Same box. Black children deserve to be main character too. Until we get there, we'll keep talking. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more. Till next time.